In 1980, The Cure released their second album, 17 Seconds. And from it, a reflection. A minor with some dull notes thrown in. Yeah, very evocative of an evergreen world. The way it lands on that G, that there, I'm trying to pick up the dull note in there. Maybe it's the note that comes right after the landing on G. There's something in there that's just slightly kind of off tune, and it gives it its kind of its power. It gives it its plunge. I'm not hearing a seventh. It would be easy to think that it's a seventh because of the kind of dullness, but G minor. Maybe that's it. Going from B minor to G minor, which is kind of odd. Yeah. Boom, 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 boom. You hear that? That sounds kind of like that outro note. Kind of reminds me of the intro to "Join Together" by the Who. Don, 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 don. Yeah, that's just a brief opening to there, and kind of a thematic instrumental. Well, setting the mood for the rather dark, foggy atmosphere of The Cure's 1980 sophomore release, 17 Seconds, marking a huge stylistic shift from their first album. Anyway, let's hear a more characteristic deep cut of the core of the album, At Night. Okay, it's obvious what band influenced The Cure at this point, but I love that gruff, I guess fuzzy bass that we're getting. Yeah, that's Simon Gallup giving us that. No, 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 no. And some rather thin, trebly distorted keyboards from Matthieu Hartley. we've heard this before. Well, from around this time anyway, those really remote, kind of almost ghostly vocals from Robert Smith. Yeah, mixed as such that you can barely hear them. It's almost like an apparition within this really dark, foggy sonic atmosphere. Kind of a chorused guitar sound, really thin, low in the mix. At this point, it's basically the drums are really frontal in the mix, and they're given that echo, that it's interesting how there are some moments in the early Cure's catalog where the bass plays a rather virtuosic role. Not as much this album as the previous one. But on this, there are some real crafty bass lines that drive the song, like a Forest, for instance, or the B-side, Another Journey by Train. But here we have like a really simple line. Yeah, it's really thick and frontal when it appears, and so even when it's not complicated, it's still playing just the front and center role and making the track in a lot of ways. And Robert Smith's guitar doing that kind of echoey thing, that kind of thing, presaging the Cocteau Twins in that department, yeah, and setting the stage for the ethereal dream pop wave of the next few years. And that synthesizer tone that almost blends in with the bass in a way. You would have to really be paying attention to notice the difference. Protected from sight. Under a safe roof, deep in your house. I guess I'd be remiss if I didn't at this point say, yeah, this is very much influenced by Unknown Pleasures. I wonder if The Cure would have ended up sounding like this had that album not been released. Unaware of the changes at night. Something about the harmonic convergence when that riff hit right there against some of the other instruments that we're playing, just makes the track. Yeah, it's the way like certain notes are kind of like droning along while that riff comes along and plays like two chords against them. And okay, I better catch up with the lyrics here. Sunk deep in the night, I sink in the night. I gotta say, at night, quite a clever, maybe not, title for a song of this nature. Yeah. Standing alone underneath the sky, I feel the chill of ice on my face. I watch the hours go by. The hours go by. You sleep. Sleep in a safe bed, curled and protected, protected from sight, under a safe roof, deep in your house, unaware of the changes at night. Oh, so contrasting, say, the experience of someone who's snuggled up in bed on a cold, freezing, dark night versus someone who's out in the cold. At night, I hear the darkness breathe. I sense the quiet despair. Listen to the silence at night. Someone has to be there. So does he work a graveyard shift? He says someone has to be there. Is he on his way home? Is he just kind of out there because that's when he likes to be out there? What's the situation? It's just, I guess there's really no story behind it. We just know that he's out there and he's out in a place, in an environment where most people wouldn't want to be, you know. It's quite, it's the perfect kind of song for the season that just is just passing now that we're entering, well, now that's winter's kind of ending as I do this, but not to date this video for people who watch it in the winter of 2025 or whatever. Okay, I guess I'm hearing two keyboard sounds. I'm hearing something higher, adding. Listen to the silence at night. Yeah, the keyboard now is going no 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 no, and I guess the no that's just all. But I was starting to think that the keyboard and bass were kind of like converging and doubling up on one another. But the reason I was saying that is because the lower notes, I'm not quite hearing, I'm not feeling the string so much. It's just sort of like beckoning in, like, like. I'm getting kind of a somnambulistic feel from this, but I'm not necessarily getting a chilly vibe, let's say. Actually, I could imagine this as every bit as much the dark interior vibe as the dark exterior vibe. So in that way, it does convey what the lyrics were talking about. In the dead of night, when it's cold outside, whether you happen to be inside or outdoors. I love how basically they're just finding ways to kind of explore the harmonic nuances of singular bass notes. It's like just it'll like drone in one key, and then it'll drone in another, and the whole time they're just going like dun, 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 like flanking it with these like kind of like spine tingly sounds. Dun, 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 boom, dun, dun, dun. And that was The Cure with At Night, and before that, A Reflection. Two tracks. Well, the opener and the penultimate track on their 1980 release, 17 Seconds. Yeah, basically, in its own way, just as good. Basically, their first two albums were rock solid. Yeah, and yet totally different from each other. It's like their first album they had several years to prepare for, and the second album just came out so naturally, and yet it was so different than. And who would have seen it coming? Yeah, and it's just amazing how many sonic areas had yet to be explored as the English music scene entered the 1980s. And this band kind of stepping into a new vein just recently opened up by the likes of, well, Joy Division and Wire. And finding, oh, well, when you kind of like strip a lot of layers away and emphasize droney sounds and just kind of subtly explore their nuances with maybe employing this effect here and maybe adding this instrument coming in at this angle or something. Yeah, I mean, before this, there hadn't been, and this was released in April 1980, so there hadn't been many recordings like this yet. There had been Unknown Pleasures, and there had been a few songs off of 154 by Wire. I'm thinking like A Touching Display, yeah, as kind of like the founders of this type of music. Yeah, even Bauhaus weren't really getting this dark yet. They only put out one single so far, but yeah, The Cure kind of just mastered anything they attempted, and quite a diverse band actually. They would explore this for a few more albums, take it further and further, and then they would take a change toward kind of vaudevillian art pop. Like around the time of Love Cats, and especially the two albums that followed, The Top and How on the Door, I'm almost wondering if after Robert Smith started adopting his trademark look, like around the time of Let's Go to Bed, if he may have gotten approached by a Split Enz fan and said, Split Enz, we're kind of doing what you're doing right now, like 6 years ago. Well, 6 years ago then, anyway. Like, yeah, 6 years, and if he went and actually listened to Dysrhythmia and watched some of the Enz's videos from that period, like Mental Notes, Dysrhythmia era, and because I hear, let's just say I hear a strong either influence or just maybe it's I just gotta say I hear a strong Dysrhythmia really foreshadows a lot of what I hear on Head on the Door. And one big Cure fan I was once talking to when I showed him the video to Bold as Brass, he says, The Cure completely aped this video for In Between Days. But those are topics for when I revisit these guys again in the 1985 hashtag, yes. Anyway, for more Rubies and Sapphires from the catalog of The Cure, see the directory of albums by English C artists linked in the description below. Like and subscribe, follow me on social media, share the video, and leave a comment if there are any observations you have about the two tracks we just heard, the atmosphere, the mood, the layers, the arrangement, the nuances, the mixing of different sounds and layers, the lyrics, too, if you have observations about those. Oh yeah, and see the video I did about a year ago on another great track from this album. Yeah, that came out when I was, in your house. Yeah, about last March or so. Linked at the end of this video as well. And until next time, this is Zaragon, the world's most ear-traveled Tremaximalist, signing off.